So thank you, everyone. Welcome to Udaan's Luminaries Talk. Udaan is a youth-focused initiative by Sahayata, and we have 3 series here: Pathway, Fireside Chats, and Luminaries. Fireside is to highlight, visionaries and people who have achieved success in their career. So we have Dr. Mandeep Rai with us today from UK. Dr. Mandeep Rai is a global authority on values. She began her career in private banking at JP Morgan, later went on to United Nations, European Commission, and then worked for some grassroots NGOs, and then moved to setting up the first media venture capital fund for United Arab Emirates. She holds a bunch of degrees. I'm going to rattle them off here. So MSc in International Development from London School of Economics, MBA from London Business School, and then Harvard and MIT during that time. And then she has a PhD in global values. So she is worked for Reuters, worked for BBC, just recently wrote articles for CNN on farmers as well. So we're honored and privileged to have Dr. Mandeep Rai join us today. Welcome.
Thank you. The honor and privilege is all mine, so thank you.
If we go back to the very beginning, what is a value, the definition of a value from your perspective? Like the one I read in the book, I sort of relate to, but I think for everyone, let's just sort of say, what is a value?
In simple terms, I would say a value is what you think is important, what you value, what really inspires you, makes you tick, motivates you, what's close to your heart, essentially what you value. And when we think about any psyche that's being built up, it's because there's more than one or several people or lots of people or slowly a community and a culture and a nation that's beginning to value something more than others, so that because of the geography, history, culture, society, politics, has morphed into a particular value being important.
If you were to say everyone on here wanted to find their true north, right? What values are driving them in their life? Is there an exercise, like without losing my freedom, how do I realize that freedom is a value to me? How could we go about doing that in our lives?
That's actually exactly what the book does. It takes you through a process to figure out your core or central or most important values. And it helps you go from kind of 100 plus values down to your top 5. And even more importantly, to then help you prioritize those top 5 so that you have a number 1 that's driving you, and then a 2, 3, 4, 5. Because if everything is pegged at the same level, it's really, there's almost no point, because you'll just be in a quandary, being pulled in 2, 3, 4, 5 different directions, because they're equally all important, and that's not so helpful. So I wanted this to be a tool, one, for you to identify your values, but much more importantly, for you to then be able to make decisions, effective decisions, based around what's important to you.
Amrinder's got his hand up.
Yeah, thanks for this really enlightening discussion. One of the questions I had was, I'm just curious to know, like, do you believe the values change with age? Like, as you are a kid to adolescent and then an adult, what can you enlighten us a little bit on in terms of what should be kids focusing on versus teenagers focusing on? That from your perspective makes the most sense.
Yes, values it's a really good question. Values are a combination of nature and nurture. And then they can change over time. You'd be surprised, for some people, when I say values are a combination of nature and nurture, by the time you're 18, for example, because I noticed you spoke about children and then teenagers, by the time you're 18 and you're out of that children and teenager stage, your values are more set, because they are forming before the age of 18 often. So for example, if you're if you're the second child, sometimes even just as a second child, you might have this strong sense of justice because you don't want to be number two. You want to be equal, or you want to make sure, you almost have a kind of a chip on your shoulder or a notch in your belt about that particular issue, just because you're the second child and you see in the birth order there are certain things going on. Or sometimes there'll be an experience that we all have around kind of the age of 13, 14, where you think, I don't belong here. Inclusion or belonging or community or collaboration or something kind of is generated at that point, because you know what it feels like to be excluded or not to belong. So there are certain milestones that will happen until as you're forming. Then after that, I think there's definitely a difference between the values you have and the values you wish you had, like aspirational values. And the book is really asking you to think about what do you wish to be known for? What do you want to be known for? Who are you and how do you want to be spoken about? What would your eulogy sound like? What's the purpose of your life? So that you're coming from a place of aspiration rather than just what is. And if that is indeed the same as what is, then that's absolutely fine. But in some people's case, it can be different. So even in that, you can get a difference in values. So yes, your values can change over time, for sure. And then your values can change according to what's important to you and how you perceive that at different stages of your life. And then there are some people where certain things will be important to them throughout their lives, and you know it. So it's not to say that there's definitely always change, but I do see change. And although some things are important to you, there's meant to be change also, or development, or evolution, or growth, or however you want to put it.
Thank you, Mandeep.
Thank you. I really appreciated this conversation, and I really hope that each and every one of these brothers and sisters on this gathering will keep in touch, because this is not just this is about kind of spreading that all these values are within each of us, and the more we can highlight these qualities within us, I think the more powerfully as Sangat's Roop will shine.
Yeah, I appreciate it, and safe travels. We'll catch up soon. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate you attending. See ya. Good night.
Keep in touch, guys.
Thanks. Bye.